Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding for Senior Report is provided in part by a grant from Andrew Goodell, Assemblyman for the 150th District of the New York State Assembly. Dave Cass and Rick Newell provide funding on behalf of the Lakeview Hotel and Restaurant at the Docks, located on Water Street near the lake in Mayville. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
And good morning. What a beautiful day we have here in Chautauqua County. The sun is sparkling out, and you see the little glints of ice on the frost-bitten snow. But there's no the grass. There's no snow. It looks like it, but it ain't. And we have just a lovely day coming up, especially tomorrow when they tell me it's going to hit the 50s here. Hello, spring. No, not quite. We have an awful lot going on around us. First of all, I'd like to say hi to our most stalwart Jamestown fan. Her name is Jean Berg. And hello, Jean, and good to have you aboard. Now, I want to say we certainly send our condolences to those children and the families of the people who were shot in that terrible school massacre. It's just a horrible thing, and this goes on and on and on. And of course, the first thing all the politicians demand is gun control laws. There are thousands of them. Probably 8 or 10 of them would have prohibited this if they were followed or checked out on. What are they going to do? Gun control? How about people who are crazy control? I mean, this is what's going on here. They could have used anything. This poor kid that blew himself away at the end is just it's unbelievable and abominable, and I don't think gun control has anything to do with it. Incidentally, NRA is telling us that since we joined the UN Pact, there is a prohibition against any guns there, so they're supposed to take all our guns away. I have a feeling we're going to have a little problem with that one, especially up here in Chautauqua County where we live. We believe that you're entitled to your gun and you can go hunting anytime you want and you can carry it for protection. Get your flag down to half-mast today and this week, theoretically. Obama has asked us to do that in memory and response to the school incident, which was just horrific. 20 kids murdered and 8 adults. It's just it's hard to believe. Anyway, enough of that. Afghanistan, I noticed, goes on and on. There's very little news on it, excepting certain politicians in Washington have said, we're not going to stay there forever. These people are actually our own friends, are turning on us and shooting us. And it's getting to be a point to where we're getting more and more deaths coming home, and it's costing us $1 trillion. Let's get out now. Well, getting out's good, for Pete's sake, as did all the other countries that went in there and tried to tame the natives, the people of Afghanistan. And I keep seeing incidentally from Washington, the seniors' Social Security entitlement. Entitlement means something that is just given to you, you didn't pay for it. I'm sorry, gentlemen. Most of us paid in enough money over 50, 60 years of working to actually have a fund. If they gave us the standard interest that they gave anyone else, using our money, which they did, we'd have a couple of $1 million at least in our fund, which at simple interest 3%, if you could get it for long-term bonds, would give you $60,000 a year. How many of you are making that on your Social Security, my friends? It ain't no entitlement, and you're not getting your fair share back either. As a matter of fact, the fund for Social Security has been totally pilfered, embezzled by the Congress. There's no money there. They took all the money away. They first started borrowing it, and then they took it away. It's all gone. There's nothing there. So now it's an entitlement, something they give us out of their generosity. Who are you kidding, you bums? God, seniors should raise a riot about that. 47% of the Americans are on entitlements and being supported by the government, according to Romney. Well, that included all the people who are retired. Yeah, who are getting Social Security. They paid for all their life. 15% of your salary finally was going into this. I'm sorry, friends. We better give Congress a reality check. And of course, in New York State, they've decided we're in real trouble. So what they're going to do is 46% tax, increase in tax on the thruway. Oh, they call it a toll, but it's a tax for trucks. Guess who's going to pay for it? Yes, you know it. You and I will pay for it. Right here at home, speaking of taxes, we got a warning from some of our legislators to be ready for a gigantic tax increase next year, 20% possibly. I don't think they could possibly do it since we're already the highest taxed county in the United States. We're going to have Mr. Crosscut on, and he can talk about that, or also we'll have Lori Cornell on shortly. She's coming on in 2 weeks, and she's a minority leader in our county legislature. We should ask about this. I had warned you, you heard it first at Senior Report, be ready for a big tax increase. Well, here it is. We better let them know they've got to do something other than just raising our taxes. We're already at the level which takes us nationwide, the tops. Come on, guys. And we're one of the poorest counties in the country, or in New York State anyway. Yeah, it's insanity. All right, guys, we have a great guest coming on shortly. He's our Eldercare geezer for Senior Report, Jim Subjack. Jim will be here with us shortly, and he'll be talking about issues of interest to you. In the meantime, we, of course, will have our let's say, opinionated commentator, John Hamill's coming on. Enough said. We've got a lot of great senior news. Let me do a little senior news for you. It's good news, always. We have the best senior groups here in Chautauqua County than you can imagine. One of the leading ones lately is who have a lot of projects going for their senior groups. They're the Great Belt seniors. And they'll have exercise class and coffee clatch on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, excepting for Monday, December 24th. Of course, you can knock that one out. The next board meeting they have is Wednesday, December 19th, if you want to get around. And they're starting all kinds of new activities. They have a yoga class coming up. Try it out. It's going to be starting on Friday, January 11th. Get over there, 10:45 a.m. Yoga. They want to start a knitting group, incidentally. Why not? Booties. Lots of booties. Oh, that's yours.
It is mine.
I've saved it religiously for somebody because I knew somebody would want it back.
I just looked at my sleeve and it's gone.
Yeah, well, it's been rattling around on my desk for months. I'm talking about a button. We had this funny little button. It turns out it was Jim Subjack's. From the last time I was there a month ago, right?
That looks like mine. I look over here, that's yours.
They're having a reader theater over there at the back to the Great Belt Seniors. First Wednesdays of the month, and book club second Wednesday of the month. Hey, how about that? Sign up for trips to Lancaster, PA, and Montreal coming up, and Quebec. Or you could call in. If you want to get in touch with them, 672-5274, easy number. Lakeshore Seniors, they meet at the Dunkirk Senior Center, which is a great big old school, and it's wonderful. It's got everything, even an indoor running lap. Their president is Barb Barbarich, and she does the job over there with Stella Michalak and a lot of other wonderful people. And let me move on here. Their next meeting is January 16th. Jean Cabrera, Florence Murat will be doing the job. They're having a big Christmas party on December 19th at the Doghouse at 4 p.m. Big bingo is scheduled for January. I wonder what big bingo is versus little bingo. We'll find out. Josie Wazinski, I just want to say she rejoined the Lakeshore Seniors, and they're very happy to have her back. And Josie's all over the place. She does a lot of work. Sheridan Happy, they meet at the, well, let's see, the Sheridan Happy Seniors met Thursday, this last time at the Kuziowsko Club, 47 members. Oh, that's quite a turnout, you know. Ellen Suttle is the president over there, and she wanted to thank everybody for showing up, and she did make a bunch of cork deer with toothpick legs and ribbon and bell ornaments. Sounds like fun. I've never seen one of those. Installation officers over there for 2013 was conducted by Fred Sikorsky. And the officers are, again, the president will be Suttle, Vice President Shirley Sikorsky, President, Secretary Sue Townsend, Treasurer Angie Logan. Next meeting, January 4th at St. John Bosco Hall. Everybody's welcome. Drop around. Steger, they have they always meet in the community room, and they have a wonderful job over there. They do wonderful things at this group. The chaplain, Josie Wazinski, again, she shows up. She read a Christmas poem, Come Let Us Adore Him. Christmas party, showed up, great bunch. Plans are being made for Super Bingo on January 8th. That's my son's birthday, I can't forget that. There'll be a lot of fun. There'll be 15 games to be played. No bingo on Christmas Day, of course. It will be December 26th. No bingo. There will be bingo on New Year's Day, though. That'll be Tuesday, January 1st. You want to bring recycling back, you know. In my town, we used to recycle everything. I would save the cans and the glass. I did that years ago before you even did recycle, because they all dumped them into one place. But to teach my kids and feel good about it, separated the cans from the glass and the glass from the aluminum, which was another thing. We used it most aluminum you take back, get a nickel for. And back then it was only 2 cents, I might add. And of course the garbage should be separated, and it goes into its own bag, Westfield bag, or you put it in your garden. And I used to compost it because it makes great compost after a couple of years. No recycling anymore there. You just dump it all in one big batch, and they recycle it. They break it up at the plant where they clean it up. United Seniors, a quick note for these guys. They're let's see, they're enjoying visiting with other groups, you know, members, and they have a snacking always from cheese and pepperoni and veggie trays, and they have chicken wings and drinking fruit punch and having a great time over there. Charles St. George. They have hundreds of people show up, at least 100, because everybody likes to join it. He introduced Joan Grupa as a guest, and Gene Morse as a new member. Hey, how about that? Beavertail Catering does the work over there. Happy birthday to Ann Banewski, Dolores Swank, Gertie Seiper, Lucille Rizzo, Margaret Larson, Peggy Project, and Carolyn Lewandowski. And Geraldine Mott, not last but least. They sang Silent Night at the end of the meeting. And of course they had bingo. All right, enough of that. They're telling me my time is up. I got one more item here. Well, no, I'll hold that for some other time. I have a public service announcement for you, though. This is just for you, and then we'll hear the doc. I think I'll have a public there.
Hey, ich bin ein Sanitäter, ich sehe, wo wir sind. Hey, ich bin ein Sanitäter, ich heiße Nils. Sprichst kein Deutsch, ne? Wie viele Minuten? Bitte mit deinem Maske, okay? Wie heißen Sie?
We have with us John Hamels. Doc, talking about gun control and things. You're on, Doc.
Hello, good morning. I always wait till I show up in the screen. Gun control. Well, let's talk about something that's similar or in the same area, and I suspect Jim is going to chime in on this. Perhaps I'll get us rolling. How's that? Reed mentioned gun control earlier, and I'm a pretty liberal guy, and this is going to sound strange coming from me, but I don't think gun control is the issue that came out of Connecticut. If any of you know, my field of expertise for 35 years was working with exceptional education. Primarily, I worked many years with students with emotional and behavioral disorders, and the issue that I see right now, if you think about it, let's go back just since Columbine. We'll think about the theater shooting. We'll think about the mall shooting the other day, and of course yesterday at the elementary school. All angry young men. Okay? And if you want to go out and Google just that term, angry young men, you're going to see reams of research on this. Folks, young men are predispositioned sometimes, more than women, to find themselves in this situation. You know, you might say, well, you mean guys are going to do all this stuff? Well, the statistics bear it out. So where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is this. We say, let's do gun control, take the guns out of whatever. The bigger issue is much broader, and it's called mental health. It's called taking care of situations way early on when the children are very young. And you know, and I'm looking at you right through the screen right now, you know somebody right now that's a young child, and you're thinking to yourself, this kid's got a long road to hoe in life. That's the signal. It's a gut check that we have in life, where sometimes kids come to this world, whether they're wired wrong or there's some abuse in the family or there's something going on, that we need to help them. And through the cost savings measures and the efficiencies that we have in society, what we've done, and in many cases, rightly so, we've deinstitutionalized many folks, and we put them in community-based living. 99% of the time it works, but there's some that are falling through the cracks. When they leave school, they leave programming, whatever, there isn't a safety net for these folks, there isn't money provided, there are certain laws, and I'm not going to even speak to those. Jim can jump on that later if he wants, but it's the old law that says it's not illegal to be crazy until you do something wrong. And what we need to do is we need to build systems, rebuild systems, reconnect individuals that have mental health issues, that are abusing drugs and alcohol. And they're all connected, guys. You can't separate them. And when I talked to Sheriff Gerasi, when I ask him about who's in the county jail, I don't know how many times he tells me that his institution over there, his agency, if you will, the jail is becoming more of a mental health program than it is a criminal program. So I think what we've done is we've gone way overboard in one respect, and we've lost focus about how to treat folks with these issues. And right in the Post-Journal today, it said this individual that did the shooting had a history of mental health issues. All right. So how do you get the gun? That's not necessarily a gun control problem, because you can get gun, a club, a baseball bat, whatever, anywhere. It's trying to work with the individuals to help them become healthy, stay healthy, and become safe, productive citizens in our communities. We can talk about this forever. I only have a few minutes to talk on this issue, but I encourage you to have that dialogue. Don't focus on the end result, focus on the beginning. Reed, also, I want to just switch gears here real quick because I don't want to always be a downer on some of these things. But today I've got a special announcement. At 3 o'clock and I believe at 9 o'clock today, here on XS5, you're going to see a special Christmas program that I had the great pleasure and honor to work with Bill Ward and Amanda Barton, and we put together a show called Christmas in Your Heart. And hopefully that'll lift our spirits just a little bit today and throughout the week up through Christmas. It's a nice program, and it's going to be aired right here. And thank you, Chuck Kelsey, for coming up with that idea. And if anyone's out in the Frewsburg area, this is Saturday, December 15th. My buddy Bill and I will be playing at the Corner Coffee House and Bistro. Back to you, Reed.
Thank you. John Hamels is a very accomplished musician. He and Bill have a band that goes all over the place, and they sing Irish stuff, and it's just fantastic. Catch them when you can. It ain't illegal to be crazy. What do you think of that, Jim Subjack?
Well, what can you say? John is right. What he said is the basis of a lot of our problems, and I think it's fairly clear that what's happened over the past couple of decades is that we have taken people that would otherwise be hospitalized or institutionalized, put them on the street with minimal, if any, supervision, who then get out of control and commit the acts like we see happened yesterday and time before. The sheriff has mentioned on numerous occasions that he has really become a mental health facility rather than the facility for housing prisoners. I mean, obviously they're coexistent. And as a consequence of that, what we've done is removed them from one institution and put them into another. The difference, however, is the ones that get into the institution in Mayville, the jail, are those that have committed some form of fairly serious or maybe very serious crime in order to get them there, as opposed to those who just have a diagnosed and uncontrolled mental disease or defect. So there is a lot of validity to what John said. I want to take it a little bit further, though. First of all, and I don't know what the focus of this program is supposed to be, but I think yesterday changed pretty much all of that. There is a Second Amendment right to bear arms. But I think the Constitution has always been a document which is capable and is actually acceptable to change. I mean, you look at the Fourth Amendment and the strict constructionists who say Second Amendment right to bear arms is absolute, you can't in any way restrict it, are forgetting that the strict constructionists, who are the same people who say the Second Amendment's inviolate and can't be changed, are, for example, in the Fourth Amendment saying that even though searches must be conducted pursuant to a search warrant issued by a neutral, detached magistrate, there are so many exceptions that the strict constructionists have carved out that they're actually talking out of both sides of their mouth. There's nothing in the Constitution about an exigent circumstance. There's nothing in the Constitution about search incident to a lawful arrest. The exceptions are numerous. However, they make sense. From a standpoint of where we are in the 21st century, the exceptions to the search warrant rule actually make a lot of sense, Reed. But what doesn't make sense is how they, in one hand, say you have to interpret the Constitution strictly and you can't vary from it. Then they carve out exceptions that aren't in the Constitution, but then when it comes to their own pet project, they can't carve out exceptions as well. What I mean by that is, I don't think there's any question that I have a right to have a pistol, that I have a right to have a long gun, a shotgun, or anything like that, presuming I'm not mentally disturbed and I've passed some type of background check.
That's what all the politicians say, but then it's always followed by a, I'm in favor of the gun control, I'm allowing people to have their guns and so forth, I would never take one, but then they say just the opposite, I think we should control these things.
Well, I think we should too. The examples I want to give, for example, armor-piercing bullets. Now, we live in a rural community. I drive all over the community for purposes of going to different courts. I oftentimes see deer, raccoon, turkey on the side of the road, sometimes alive, most of the time dead, but none of them have ever been in a Kevlar vest that I've seen. So for deer hunters, you don't need armor-piercing bullets in order to shoot a deer and kill it. You don't need armor-piercing bullets for anything other than to penetrate body armor, which is that in the military, and that for law enforcement. Do we really want to be promoting ammunition that can kill law enforcement and our military? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, and I see no purpose as to why it can't be controlled. Let's talk about assault weapons. I don't know who the NRA and its constituents are trying to protect us from. I know that we need these assault weapons to protect us. Well, the commies or the Martians or whoever it is that are trying to protect us from haven't ever come in such mass hordes that we need automatic assault rifles. It just doesn't make sense. From a practical standpoint, everybody talks about having a handgun to protect themselves from an intruder. Well, think about it. If you've got an intruder in your house, you're probably in a situation that is the most frightening you've ever been in. You're probably nervous as hell. It's dark. You don't know what to do. You grab a handgun, and you've got this tiny little projectile that is supposed to stop the intruder from doing harm to you or members of your family. If you want really to protect yourself, get a shotgun with buckshot.
That's
going to stop them. So do I. That's what's going to stop them. That's what's going to stop them. That bullet may not stop them at all. Bullet may be a good shot and it may stop them, but it may not. And they're going to come at you with a vengeance. You shoot them with a shotgun, you may not kill them, and hopefully you don't, but you're going to stop them.
You sure as hell will. I got a call here for you.
Okay.
We're just getting wound up here. We're just opening up. There's more coming. Hello, good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jim, you're making a mistake in what you're saying. And I'll start with, they've proven number 4 shot's better than buckshot for in your house.
Well, whatever.
That's
what I have. But
armor-piercing ammunition is illegal to buy. You can't buy it. Only the Army and the police. So, moot point. Any center-fire rifle made will go through body armor. So, that's kind of a moot point, too. Assault weapons are fully automatic, not semi-automatic, and just because they have a pistol grip or whatever, a folding stock, it doesn't make them an assault weapon. Like New York State seems to think. There's 3 guns I was interested in buying, and I found out they're now illegal in New York State.
So, repeat that. What's illegal in New York State?
Certain guns I wanted to buy because of cosmetic features. New York has it like the old federal ban that expired was. If it has a pistol grip and a folding stock and or a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds, there's a couple other things, then it's illegal in New York because that makes it a...
misinterpretation of the gun laws also, or of the gun, they consider, they would consider the mini rifles, especially, as automatic. Well, that means it's a machine gun. It's already illegal everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a federal law.
Well,
it's semi-automatic. You can shoot out. You have to pull trigger each time. And many people, hunters especially, have semi-automatic rifles and shotguns they use for hunting.
Well, exactly. And actually, if you buy a stamp, in a lot of states, a federal stamp for $200, you can own a machine gun in a lot of states. New York's not one of them. And from what I've read, there's never been anyone that's legally owned a machine gun that's registered with the federal government that's ever committed a crime with it. So just everybody jumps on the bandwagon and starts talking about things like Jim did, like armor-piercing bullets, which for some reason people think you can get them. You can't.
They're pretty scary, though, when you think about it.
Well, yeah.
Actually, you know, one of the funny things is, caller, in the Constitution, this was written in the right to bear arms, mainly to protect yourself from a government that was ruining your life.
Yeah.
And in that case, you might need armor-piercing bullets.
Yeah, I've thought that, and I'm thinking the time is apparently coming close with the government we have lately. But anyhow,
a lot of people agree.
Right. But anyhow, just to make the technical points, you cannot buy armor-piercing bullets, and centerfire rifles will go through any body armor, and assault weapons are not legal. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, well, assault weapons aren't legal in every state. The federal ban and the Brady Law was repealed, not repealed, it expired, and the government was too gutless to reinstate it.
Okay, Jim, will you tell me what an assault rifle is?
The ones like what was it called? The one that he had in the back of his car yesterday?
The AK?
No, that wasn't it.
Like
AR-15.
What was it?
AR-15.
Is that what it was?
Well,
That
that's
was
what
called something else. It was something that they used for the military over in Afghanistan.
M16, civilian version of the AR-15.
I don't know.
That's what I saw a picture of. But an assault weapon is fully automatic, and those are illegal. If he had one, he had it illegally, which just proves the gun control laws don't work.
So they already have thousands of them. That's the funny part about it. And your politicians, who are just basically scamps in some cases, they jump up immediately and say, we need more gun control laws. We've
Right.
got enough already, guys. We got doubles and triples of the same laws. It's just you cannot enforce them, or you do not enforce them.
Probably do not is part of it.
Yeah.
One point I'd like to make that nobody seems to remember is before Kennedy got shot, before the 60s, there was very little gun control, if any. And none of this ever happened back then. Now we've got more gun control, and this seems to be happening way too often. So
what's the answer?
Well, you know what? But there's not always an answer to every question. There's not always a fix to every problem. I don't know. But making it harder for me to get guns and not allowing me to own certain guns is not going to help those kids in Colorado or stop any shootings
Not
in
anymore.
the future. I mean, there's countless numbers of guns that didn't, and gun owners that didn't commit a crime yesterday.
Millions.
So, I know, this gun control, I wish everybody calmed down before they decide to do anything.
I agree with that, and that was one of the points I was going to make, which is one of the things that we've seen way too much of lately is rather than sit down, study the problem, analyze its roots, figure out what causes it, and thereafter come up with a solution, they just pass a law, name it after a victim, and that's supposed to solve the problem.
Right.
You have laws that increase penalties, you have laws that outlaw certain types of conduct, and they're ineffective because they don't address the root of the problem. That's the problem with the politicians that we've always had. We have it in another forum. I'm not going to talk much about that unless others want to, but the fiscal cliff. When you think about the fiscal cliff, for example, it was politicians that created the cliff.
Right.
It wasn't something that existed before Congress imposed it upon us last year. And now they can't figure out a way, well, they can figure out a way, but they can't agree on a way to get us off of that cliff without falling. And it just is, it's again the typical knee-jerk gut reaction of the politicians who don't think anymore. They're more interested in keeping their own jobs than serving their constituents. So this is one of those problems. What happened yesterday, what happened in the movie theater in Aurora, it's a problem. They need to sit down. I don't care if it takes them 5 years to study it and figure out a way to stop it. That's why I asked you the question if you had any idea how to stop it. I don't have an idea myself on how to stop it, but there must be people there that can say, look, with a combination of this and that, and to do this and not do that, we can make it more effective so our children are safer, so our citizens are safer. And the same thing with the fiscal crisis. Sit down and think about it. They should be working not only to avoid the fiscal crisis and the fiscal cliff now, which they need to do because they've only got 2 weeks to get away from it, but to avoid it in the future as well. They need to do something more than a Band-Aid quick solution, which really doesn't satisfy anybody except for immediate gratification, but it causes problems further down the road. And they need to do that, and they haven't done it for years.
I agree with you. We're asking the people that caused the problem to fix it.
Yeah, I know, and that's kind of anomalous, don't you think? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how we fix the fiscal crisis. I never took economics or anything like that in college. I do know that something needs to be done, and it really needs to be done quickly. Now you're reading articles that say, if we fall off the fiscal cliff, we can survive it for a little while. Well, let's not get in the position where we have to figure out how long we can survive the fiscal cliff. Let's figure out a way to take ourselves away from it and put us on level ground, not cliffs, not valleys, not mountains. There's got to be a way to do it. I wish I had an answer to it, but the people that we've hired by our votes to take care of it aren't.
Yeah,
Right.
Jim, one of the things I think they're going to do is almost guaranteed, raise the taxes on not just the rich, the middle class.
They'll figure out a way to,
That's
absolutely.
what they will do. You heard it first on Senior Report. Your taxes, federal taxes, will rise.
But you know how they're going to do it, Reed? Like they did in New York State for years. They don't raise the tax rates. They just raise the fees. Now, for example,
Right.
You need a certain type of federal permit. that is going to go up. Is it a direct tax? No, it's not a direct tax because not everybody pays it, but it's going to be an additional tax.
It's like water and sewage. You need it and you have to use it.
But you're going to have to pay for it. And it goes up, absolutely.
It's a tax, really.
I agree, and that's what's going to happen. I agree with Reed 100%. They may raise the rates for the $250,000 for married and $200,000 for singles. That may be one of the solutions they rise, but I'm also agreeing with Reed. What they're also going to do is they're going to figure out a way to raise fees, to raise expenses, to raise applications, anything that you can think of. There's going to be more. It'll pass on to the industries, it'll pass on to the farms, it'll pass on to agencies, and of course, and in all fairness to them, what are they going to do with it? They're going to pass it on to us.
Sure, of course, like the new tax on the thruway.
Right.
For trucks.
I
You
know.
know who's going to pay that.
Yeah, of course we are.
Caller, I thank you very much.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Yeah, great input, and you have a great Christmas. Bye-bye. Or Hanukkah, whatever.
Whatever.
Kwanzaa.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We're with Jim Subjack. He's the one-time DA for many years of Chautauqua County, practices law now, and he specializes in a lot of things. He's very, very knowledgeable about elder care. If you have an elder care problem, you might want to check with him. This is not a solicitation of any kind. He has his office in right on the corner there in Fredonia by the red light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can always drop in. What's the number if they want to check with you or follow up on something you say?
672-2800.
672-2800. Jim Subjack, and he's our lawyer for elder care matters. He comes in regularly to give you some insight, and this is a perfect example of it. I think the questions that we are mulling over right now are very important. One of the things that the hunters are really concerned about, though, is the semi-automatic is now being considered sort of an assault weapon. Well, that's most shotguns and rifles that hunters use, and suddenly they're being declared an assault weapon.
Well, I don't think that'll ever get anywhere. I hope it doesn't. Like I said, we have an absolute right to bear arms guaranteed by the Second Amendment, but we just need to sit down and resolve what the problems are and how to solve those problems. You know, you talk about the holiday season. One thing I need to tell everybody, that if you're home and thinking about going out, I almost didn't make it here this morning. It is slippery out there.
Oh.
I assume it's supposed to warm up and the ice will melt, but on the Fredonia-Stockton Road, there was a pickup truck off in a ditch. The sheriff's deputy was there with him. He wasn't hurt, but nonetheless, I mean, you don't know. You're on dry pavement and all of a sudden you're on black ice. And
Black
of course,
ice, bad stuff.
that's nasty stuff.
You can't even see it. That's the worst part.
Don't ruin your holiday season by ruining your vehicle or getting hurt. Be careful when you go out there. When it gets up in the 40s today, you should be fine. But right now, if you're going out, be careful.
Thank you for the warning. One of the questions about this school situation, this massacre, and the other ones, mostly by angry young men, is that they should have had some sort of therapy work with them or whatever. Well, a few years ago, the state, in their wisdom to save money, closed down most of the medical hospitals where they could take these kids in and give them some real help, some therapy, and follow up. That's all gone now. But they say, well, we still have opportunities for these people, like they're pretty rare and far between. And in the meantime, what is the current institution? Well, as Joe Gerasi would say, they just put them in jail.
Right.
It only costs about $50 to $80 a day in jail. It costs $1,000 a day in the mental hospital. So we save a bundle by jailing them.
Yeah, isn't that the unfortunate part? There's so many things that we waste money on, Reed, that we could put into more mental health programs. Just like John said, it's a mental health issue. Just like you alluded to, it's a mental health issue in many of these cases. And they have shut down facilities. They've reduced treatment. I'm not sure why. I know they save money on it. But again, there's so many other things they waste a ton of money on. Look at our local people, that our local representatives. They hand out pork all the time. I know it's great for the agency or the organization that gets the pork, but that money really needs to be spent elsewhere.
And we'll save this kind of thing. We got another couple of calls.
Okay, that's fine.
Good morning, caller. You're on.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to switch topic, if I may, for a minute.
Sure.
Since you're talking about elder care and that's your expertise, I was wondering, since we have so many people that are approaching the baby boomer era now, that they're retiring and so forth, if you could give them advice, what are like 3 areas that they should be thinking about as they prepare for retirement, and and concerns that they should maybe be thinking about ahead of time? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, caller. We'll let Jim address that
Yeah,
one.
did I cut you off?
Yes.
Sorry about that if I did. One of the
always
things,
call back.
okay, that's true. One of the things that he needs, or we all need to consider as we get into our golden years, and I'm certainly there now, is long-term care. Because we're living longer, what happens is our mind just doesn't keep up with the increases in our longevity. Some of it's Alzheimer's, some of it's the old senility, like we used to talk about. When I was growing up, my grandfather, for example, was supposedly senile. Well, it might have been Alzheimer's, it might have been senility, but nonetheless, it was a cognitive disorder. And he lived to be 87, and my guess is the last 10 years of his life, if not more, he really didn't have much mental capabilities or capacities. Families find it difficult to care for their elder parents. And you hear the old joke that parents raise their children and then at the end it's children raise their parents. That's really not a joke, because many parents, many of the senior groups can no longer function on their own. They don't have the finances, however, to take care of themselves, so they wind up with living with their kids who really don't have the capabilities and sometimes the patience to take care of them. So,
especially if they're raising children at the time.
That's right. So
that's a double whammy.
It is. So they need to worry about long-term care. If they have an estate, they need to think about how to preserve it. There might be ways to give it away. There may be trusts they could create. They certainly need to have a will, and they need to provide for somebody to take care of them and their affairs as they get older and get either
Power of
physically,
attorney.
that's right, physically and or mentally incapable or incompetent. That's called a durable power of attorney. Those are the three things they ought to be checking into. Everybody's situation is different. There's no blanket coverage that fits all.
So you're suggesting recognize the fact you're going to get old and you may become, quote, senile, as we used to say.
Right.
Alzheimer's. We got another couple calls.
Oh, that's fine.
We're back
I don't know
up.
if I answered the question, but I hope I did.
I think you did thoroughly.
If not, he may be on the
caller,
phone.
you're on.
Good morning. Good
Morning.
morning.
Good morning. What's up?
Well, first off, you aren't going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I had the pleasure of going to a recital last night, which was just...
Here's a woman's going to talk about the dance club.
All right.
I haven't even mentioned her.
We could see it coming.
You're right, though. It was wonderful. It just seems to get better and better and better each year. And although Mr. Bishop was sadly missed, Mrs. Bishop and her troupe certainly went way out and put on a wonderful, wonderful thing. It was well worth the money and the time. And the weather was nice. Sometimes when you go, it's a little bit warm, but this was
I wonder
beautiful.
if this caller has a question.
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. You're on.
But now I've forgotten what my question is.
That was a nice plug.
Pardon?
It was a nice plug, though.
Right.
It was about the elder care.
Well, why don't you call back when you think of it?
Well,
Where was the concert last night, by the way?
in Westfield at the dance studio, the only one here.
Is it just last night?
No, it's going to be today also. They're having a matinee, and then tonight they'll have an evening
No, it'd be a nice evening for somebody that's in the area.
And be sure you can climb stairs, though. And now that brought me to my question.
Very good.
I have a debilitating disease that is, although my mind's still fine and all that.
I'm not sure.
So that's you're right there. Some days I go to the refrigerator.
Reed
and
said
open
that.
it, and I what am I here for? But anyways, I in the last couple years, my ability to motion has slowed down a lot, and I've started out with a cane, and then I went to a standing up walker. Now I have a walker that I can sit in, and if I'm in a hospital or somewhere and there's a lot of walking, I can sit on a seat, turn around, and make it go backwards up the hall.
Well, caller, if I can give you a bit of real good advice, Medicaid covers a hover around, what they call a hover around, or a buddy, or one of those little electric wheelchairs, and you won't be able. They'll cut that out so fast your head will spin now during the fiscal crisis. Get it now! Get it now!
They might.
I'm not ready for that yet.
It doesn't matter. You will be.
My doctor will not say, this is what this patient needs at this time.
You're in a deteriorative situation, as you pointed out, and I would get it now before they cut it out.
Yeah, it's not likely to get better, whatever your condition is.
Right, well, I am going to go to another specialist and see if there's anything that can be done, because it's been like 5 years since the last time I went. But as I said, I've noticed that I'm starting to deteriorate a little bit. But I think it's from a different, I think it's just arthritis myself. But hey, what the heck?
Yeah, you better check it just to be on the safe side, though.
Oh, I'm definitely going to the doctor for it, but a specialist this time. But anyways, that was my question. What would a person do? I'm a little concerned that I'm not going to be eligible when the time comes.
Well, you have to certainly contact your politicians. That's about the only thing that we can do.
Oh, I have done that.
Oh, I'm sure you have. We've been held hostage by politicians for so long. Like I said, on the gun control issue, you know something's going to come out of this that hasn't been well thought. On the fiscal cliff, you know something's going to come out of this that isn't well thought. Your question is more directly related to the fiscal crisis, the fiscal cliff we're at.
Yes.
And you know, as a way of compromise to get ourselves off of that cliff, one of the things that's going to happen is they're going to cut benefits for seniors, whether it's Medicare, whether it's Medicaid, ultimately feedback through into the state system, Social Security. Something is going to happen.
Well, see, that's my problem.
Yeah, I know that we're not going to like, and you know, part of this, and I hate to say,
why are we taking it from the poorest citizens to take care of that rather than trying to in my opinion, it would be much better to try to take it from, not take it, but to have
no, take it's right. That's the right term. Take it. That's what they're going to do.
The onus of this fall on the poorer citizens than it is apparently. Now, cutting food stamps for somebody, they did a thing, and they had people who were normal people try to live on the amount of food stamps that people are eligible for in a month. They couldn't do it.
Well, how about welfare?
Yeah.
In New York City,
absolutely could not do it.
Madam, in New York City, the payment to somebody on social services for an apartment, $200. Try to find an apartment for $200 in New York City.
You can find that per day in some places.
I don't think you could find it in Chautauqua County.
No, I don't either. I think
for that matter.
I think the only thing that you can get for that kind of money is a Maytag box.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty darn sure you couldn't find that in Chautauqua County. But anyhow, I'm very concerned that is happening. That is one. I personally have a theory. I think that anybody who is in Congress should get the same benefits that the ordinary people get. They shouldn't be getting these Taj Mahal medical benefits.
That's what there should be a constitution. We're already pushing seniors. Seniors are being thrown under the bus, and we're also pushing for this constitutional law that whatever they give us, they get.
I believe that.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, one of the things.
And they also should have term limits, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, term limits is an idea, but in fact, when Newt Gingrich announced the contract, I always call it the contract on America, not for America.
Yeah.
That everybody that signed the pledge decided they were for term limits, and then of course when they reached their term limit, they decided that even though that's what they believed in, they don't believe in it anymore, and they kept on.
A couple of them. I don't know if you ever watched Joe Scarborough. He's on early in the morning.
No, I'm usually at work.
Well, anyways, he's out. Well, no, he starts out at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Then I'm not up.
Oh, okay. But he was a Republican.
He was a congressman, right?
Congressman.
And his secretary mysteriously died in his office from falling off a desk or something.
Well, that happens all the time.
All the time.
He did do his what he said he was going to do, and then he left Congress. And
very quickly after his secretary was found dead.
I don't.
Caller, we got 3 more calls.
But
I'm going to have to cut you short, and we're going to have to move on.
Yeah, briefly on that issue, though, one of the things I think we can do, every 10 years we reapportion based upon populations, and the politicians in charge are the ones that ultimately choose the new districts, so they gerrymander their districts to perpetuate their jobs, and we can't get fresh new people in. 90% of the congressional seats that are available every 2 years are so secure because they've gerrymandered them to protect themselves that we can never get rid of them.
And they also use, thank you, they also print their own stuff, which is at government.
Yeah, at our expense,
your and my
absolutely.
expense and so forth. So the incumbency is almost guaranteed.
Yep.
forever and ever. Caller, thank you for waiting. Are you on?
I'm on. Good morning, Reed. Good morning, Jim. This is Linda.
Hey, Linda, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Very
how are
well.
you? It's great to see you on the show.
Nice to be here.
I wanted to make a quick comment about the things that the previous caller was discussing. They have indoor power chairs now. And if you go to the Care Center in Dunkirk, I don't know if we're allowed to mention businesses, but if you go to the Care Center in Dunkirk, they have a display of the different kinds of chairs, and you can take a good look at them. And some of them are very small now, and they're convenient to use in the home. And then the doctor prepares papers for Medicare to pay for it. And I suggest that your caller do that.
She tells us her doctor won't do it because she's not quite at that level. She's deteriorating rapidly. And I'll tell you, I forewarned her, if you may have heard this, if you plan to get a hover round, which they're called, or a buddy, or one of the many different, what do they call them?
Rascals.
A rascal.
Do it quickly.
You better do it fast, because they're going to cut Medicare, Medicaid sharply, and I know that $4,000 chair is going to disappear like the snow in July.
Maybe they'll have them made in China now.
For $500 bucks, right?
Sell them for $2, but make them for $500.
So anyway, what's new with you, caller?
Well, I just wanted to say that there are services with the Chautauqua County Office for the Aging, and people should call our offices. We have our senior employment program. We're keeping people on a waiting list. We are putting people back on very cautiously because of our budget
cutbacks. So you can say the word. They're chopping senior, all the senior stuff. We're being thrown under the bus, kid.
And well, everybody should contact their representatives. And also, we have the free computer training. We have a site in Westfield at the Patterson Library, and we've opened up recently, as of last summer, a new site at the Dunkirk Library. So people should contact our offices.
Thank you very much. Also, Tom Reed is our new congressman as of January, I guess.
Correct.
We'll lose Brian Higgins, and I'm not sure. It's a big loss. I think Tom looks like he's pretty active too. Tom Reed.
Has been.
Call him.
Starting a second term.
And call our senators too. I saw that young lady on who was just reelected.
Kristen Gillibrand.
Kristen. And of course, she immediately said she's 100% for the right to bear arms, but she says she's restricted a lot more.
Well, they need to sit down and think about what they need to do and come up with, I hope, a logical conclusion, not gut knee-jerk reaction like they always do.
Yeah.
We're going to wind up doing something that everybody's going to regret. They're going to restrict the right to bear arms more than they should. Then it's going to be deemed unconstitutional, and then we've got no solution at all. So.
There you go. Okay, caller. How's that old man who lives over there?
Oh, the young man, he's doing quite well. He's doing quite well. I did want to say something about the tragedy yesterday at the elementary school. I really wish that they would stop publicizing these tragedies so much and making celebrities out of these killers.
Yeah, under the Chinese system, they never mention their name.
Yeah,
it's never mentioned.
Yeah,
and the other part that is distressing is it's nonstop coverage for like 2 consecutive weeks, and it numbs everybody to the extent and the harm caused by the tragedy. You know, there's other things that are going on in the world at the same time that they need to report as well. Now, they're just rehashing the same things over and over and over and over again.
And then analyzing, he had psychological problems. I don't really care about that person that killed those children and those teachers and his mother. I don't really want to know about his psyche. We just have to put an end to it and stop inducing copycat killing.
Thank you very much, caller, and we'll move on, and I hope you have a great Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, please.
Oh, Merry Christmas to you. Happy Hanukkah, too.
And Kwanzaa.
Right.
Yeah, Kwanzaa.
My regards to your husband as well.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Thanks, you too.
Good morning, caller. We cleared the air for you. You're on.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we hear you. Loud and clear.
Okay. You guys were talking about the electric wheelchairs for seniors. My mother got one about a year ago. The guy brought it in, dropped it off, showed her how to use it. Problem is, you can't get through the house with it. It's too big. This company does a lot of advertising, and I guess they're always getting in trouble, but now it's sat for
Make
like
darn
a year.
sure it goes through your doorways, right?
What's that?
Make sure when you order one or take one that it goes through your doors.
Yes, it will not fit through her house, so it just sat there, and the batteries have died. Now she's got like that several $1,000s. They told her it cost her a little over $100 after insurance. It cost her $1,000, and I just want people to, you know, if you're going to get an electric wheelchair, you make sure it'll fit through your house. Don't let them just show you how to make it go in the living room and then leave.
Thank you.
Once you get it, stuck with it.
That
Hey,
gets
thank you.
Yeah, it
That's
gets
a
around
good tip.
Yeah, it is. Gets around the most spacious room in the house, but you can't get to any of the other rooms.
Yeah, if you can't go through the
Yep.
doors.
Well, actually, Linda had mentioned that they're making smaller ones now, and they were available. And what'd you say, the Dunker Care Center?
Yeah, I think that's one of the
So
places.
that may
I
be-
know they're available over in Westfield
Are they?
at the pharmacy on Main Street too. I've seen them in the windows. They got a whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
So
'cause
that
this
may
thing
be-
is just way too big to go through a house, and that's what they ended up selling her. And, you know, being a senior, they take what they can get.
Yeah, they certainly take advantage. That's
Yeah,
been the
because-
problem all along. Well, there've been other programs we've done about senior scams, and they just never go away.
Well, they've been trying to get rid of these oversized wheelchairs for about 10
Well,
years.
they're okay
now.
for if you're down south or out west. If you're outside a lot, they're good to have out in the sidewalks. But inside the house, they're cumbersome and sometimes can't get through.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's the thing. If you
Yeah.
can't get from room to room,
Right.
you're out of luck. You might as
Well,
well.
thanks a
Then
lot.
how many seniors can afford two?
Yeah.
The
that's right,
outdoor
or
one, the
four,
big
maybe.
one, yeah, the outdoor one, keep in the garage next to the car, and the indoor one so you can get around your own house.
Well, the indoor one for the living room, if they're this size, and one for
Oh,
the
one for each room.
bathroom.
There we go, yeah.
Right, one for the kitchen. Yeah, thank you, caller, very much for that
you.
hot
Thank
tip.
you.
That is a good tip. If you're going to order a hover around one of these little electric wheelchairs, make darn sure before you do anything, it'll fit through your doorways in your house. We're down to our last couple of minutes. I want to give you a minute, unrestricted, uninterrupted time just on your own to close off.
Well, it's what I started with. I'm afraid we're going to wind up with some gut, knee-jerk reactions to the tragedy that happened yesterday. Politicians are going to act irrationally and irresponsibly. They're going to pass a law that's unenforceable, that is unconstitutional, that ultimately is not going to solve the problem, will be declared unconstitutional, and we'll be back to square one. If there's a problem, it needs to be analyzed. If there's a problem, it needs to be studied. We need to understand the cause of the problem. We need to understand what can cure the problem to the best extent possible. If we're going to pass any legislation, that's the legislation that needs to be passed. Let's not just hastily jump into something. That goes with things like the fiscal cliff, what happened yesterday. It actually deals with everything we do politically. They really need to think about what they do. Just don't pass a law because they perceive a problem. That's what they need to do. And politicians haven't done that in years.
Jim Subjack, thank you very much. Come back soon?
I will.
We'll need you. There's a lot of stuff going on you can help us with. I want to thank everybody. The last caller, I'm sorry. Jim will be back. Or you can call him. Give him the number.
672-2800.
There you go, friends. I want to thank some really special people out there. I want to thank Chuck Kelsey. I want to thank Devin Taylor, Chris Bird, Randy Bird, Jeff Zook, Chuck, Chris Ramaker, Don Zenz, John Hamels, and all the callers who called in, and listeners and viewers out there. I wish you all a happy, happy holiday. I hope you're always setting that one extra seat at your table for the person who's lonely and has no family around and would certainly just flourish in your company and make a great party out of it. Get out there and dance in the sun. May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. I'm Reed Powers.